In the golden haze of a Florida summer in 1979, the gates of SeaWorld in Orlando swung wide, ushering in a tide of visitors eager to witness the wonders of the marine world. Among them was 10-year-old Dawn Brancheau, a girl with a heart as boundless as the ocean itself, clutching her mother's hand as they wove through the vibrant crowds toward the Chamois Stadium. The air buzzed with the hum of anticipation, the scent of sunscreen mingling with the faint tang of salt water carried on the breeze. Children scampered about, their laughter blending with the distant calls of seagulls, while parents juggled maps and ice cream cones. As Dawn and her mother found their seats in the stadium, the energy was electric, the crowd a mosaic of wide-eyed wonder and restless excitement. The stadium, with its towering bleachers and shimmering pool, was a cathedral of sorts, a place where the marvels of the deep were brought to life. Then, with a sound like a cannon shot, the water erupted, and a massive orca, known to all as Chamois, launched itself skyward. Its sleek, black-hand, white body traced a perfect arc against the azure sky, its power and grace defying the laws of gravity before it crashed back into the pool, sending a cascade of water splashing over the delighted crowd. The audience roared, their cheers a thunderous wave that echoed through the stands, but for Dawn, this moment was something far greater, a revelation that would shape the course of her life. Her eyes, bright with awe, followed the orca's every move, her heart pounding with a mixture of exhilaration and certainty. As she descended the stadium steps, her small hand still clasped in her mother's, she turned to her with a resolve that belied her age and declared, "This is what I want to do." In that fleeting, transformative instant, watching the killer whale's majestic leap, Dawn Brancheau made a vow to dedicate her life to the animals that had so profoundly captured her imagination. Little did she know, however, that her dream would lead her down a path of extraordinary passion, relentless dedication, and a tragedy that would reverberate far beyond the walls of SeaWorld. Touching the hearts of millions, Dawn's love for animals was a fire that burned brightly from her earliest years. Her childhood home was a sanctuary, a living tapestry where creatures of all kinds found solace and care. Her 2 Labrador retrievers, with their soulful brown eyes and boundless enthusiasm, were her constant companions, their joyful barks filling the air as they bounded through the yard, chasing shadows and tumbling in the grass. Beyond her beloved dogs, Dawn's heart opened wide to the strays that wandered into her life. Ducks waddling through her garden, their soft quacks a gentle melody at dawn. Chickens clucking contentedly as they pecked at the earth in search of morsels. Rabbits nibbling on clover in pens she built with meticulous care. And tiny birds, their delicate wings fluttering in nests she crafted from twigs and soft cloth. Her backyard was a menagerie, a testament to her boundless compassion, each animal a cherished guest in her world. But Dawn's kindness extended far beyond her home. In her spare time, she volunteered at a local animal shelter, spending countless hours cleaning cages, preparing meals, and offering affection to abandoned dogs and cats. She would sit with the shy ones, her voice soft and soothing, coaxing them out of their shells with gentle words and a steady hand. She knew their stories, tales of neglect, abandonment, or loss, and she poured her heart into giving them hope. Each act of kindness was a reflection of her deep, unshakable bond with the animal world, a bond that fueled her ambition to become an animal trainer, a dream that burned with an intensity, guided her every step. Determined to turn her passion into a career, Dawn enrolled at the University of South Carolina, where she immersed herself in the study of psychology and animal behavior. Her college years were a whirlwind of intellectual discovery, filled with late, night study sessions under the glow of a desk lamp, her fingers tracing the pages of textbooks on animal cognition. She attended lectures on the psychology of marine mammals, her notebook filled with meticulous notes, her questions probing the depths of animal minds. She participated in research projects, observing animals in controlled settings, marveling at the complexity of their behaviors, and learning to interpret the subtle cues that defined their interactions. Her professors noted her dedication, her curiosity a spark that lit up the classroom, her enthusiasm infectious to those around her. After graduating, Dawn took her first steps into the professional world of marine life, securing a position at a New Jersey attraction where she worked with dolphins for 2 years. The dolphins, with their sleek bodies and playful antics, were a joy to train. Dawn spent hours in the water, her swimsuit clinging to her skin as she moved alongside them, learning to read their high-pitched clicks and whistles, their leaps and spins, a language she was determined to understand. She would watch them glide through the water, their eyes glinting with intelligence, and feel a surge of connection that reaffirmed her purpose. These early experiences were a crucible, shaping her into a skilled trainer with an intuitive sense of animal behavior. Every moment spent with the dolphins, feeling the rush of water as they swam by, hearing their playful chatter, watching their graceful movements, brought her closer to her ultimate goal. The orcas at SeaWorld, the animals that had ignited her childhood dream. In 1994, Dawn's journey took her to Six Flags amusement parks, where she worked with otters and sea lions. These animals, with their mischievous personalities and sharp intelligence, were a delight to train. Dawn spent hours observing their behaviors, learning to anticipate their needs and respond to their moods. She could read the flick of a sea lion's tail or the tilt of an otter's head, using these subtle cues to build trust and cooperation. Her colleagues admired her patience, her ability to connect with animals on a level that seemed almost instinctual. She would spend breaks sitting by the enclosures, watching the otters dive and twist through the water, their playful energy a mirror of her own. Her time at Six Flags was a proving ground, a chance to refine her skills and prepare for the challenges ahead. In 1996, her perseverance paid off. She was transferred to SeaWorld in Orlando, where she would finally work with orcas, the pinnacle of her childhood aspirations. That same year, Dawn's personal life blossomed when she married Scott Brancheau, a stunt skier at SeaWorld whose adventurous spirit and love for the natural world complemented her own. Their wedding was a celebration of their shared passions, their home a place filled with laughter, love, and the occasional quack of a stray duck that had wandered into their care. Their evenings were spent sharing stories of their days, Scott recounting daring ski jumps while Dawn described the thrill of working with orcas, their bond strengthened by a mutual respect, wonders of the world they inhabited. Working with orcas was a dream come true, but it was also a formidable challenge. These animals, often weighing up to 12 pounds and measuring over 20 feet in length, were among the ocean's most powerful predators. Their strength was matched only by their intelligence, their social structures as intricate as those of human families, with complex hierarchies and deep emotional bonds. Training them required not only skill, but also extraordinary physical fitness. Dawn embraced this challenge with gusto, incorporating weightlifting, running, and cycling into her daily routine. Her mornings often began with a jog through the quiet streets of Orlando, the rhythmic thud of her sneakers against the pavement, a meditation that prepared her for the day ahead. The air was cool, the sky streaked with the first light of dawn, and she would run with a focus that mirrored her approach to her work, determined, unwavering, alive with purpose. In the gym, she pushed herself through grueling sets, her muscles straining as she lifted weights that mirrored the physical demands of her job. She would grip the barbell, her hands steady, her breath measured, and feel the strength coursing through her body, a strength she knew she would need in the water. In a 2000 television interview with the Orlando Press, she spoke passionately about the importance of fitness in her work. "These are underwater giants," she said, her voice steady and confident, her eyes bright with conviction. "You have to be strong, agile, and ready for anything. It's not just a job, it's a lifestyle." Her toned physique and fluid movements were a testament to her dedication. Her body, a finely tuned instrument capable of meeting the demands of working with orcas. She could often be seen sprinting across the SeaWorld grounds, her energy boundless, or cycling through the park's pathways, her focus unwavering, her laughter ringing out as she waved to colleagues. Her colleagues admired her not only for her skill, but for her relentless commitment to excellence, a quality that made her one of SeaWorld's most respected trainers. Dawn was acutely aware of the risks inherent in her profession. She understood that orcas, despite their intelligence and social nature, were wild animals with instincts that could never be fully tamed. In interviews, she spoke candidly about their behavior, noting that attacks on humans in the wild were exceedingly rare. She described orcas as curious, social creatures, capable of forming deep bonds with humans, their interactions with divers and fishermen revealing a playful and inquisitive side. She would recount stories of orcas approaching boats, their massive heads breaking the surface to gaze at the humans aboard, their eyes glinting with curiosity. Dawn's knowledge was not merely academic. It was forged in the water through countless hours of observing and interacting with these animals. She could read the subtle flick of a fin, the intensity of a vocalization, or the glint in an orca's eye, using these cues to navigate their complex personalities. She would spend hours by the pool, watching the orcas glide through the water, their movements a symphony of power and grace, and feel a profound connection to their world. Her respect for orcas was profound, shaping every aspect of her work, from the precision of her training techniques to the care she took in ensuring their well-being. She advocated for their needs, pushing for better enrichment programs and more attentive care, her voice a quiet but persistent force within SeaWorld. Among the orcas Dawn trained was Tilikum, a male orca whose name, meaning friend, in the Chinook language, stood in stark contrast to his troubled history. Captured off the coast of Iceland in 1983 at the tender age of 2, Tilikum was torn from his pod, a tight, knit family of orcas that roamed the open ocean, their calls echoing across the waves. The capture was a violent affair, with nets and boats separating him from his mother and siblings, his cries of distress lost in the chaos. He was transported to a concrete tank at the Hafnarfjord, your marine zoo near Reykjavik, a stark, sterile environment that bore no resemblance to the vibrant ocean he had known. For nearly a year, he languished in confinement, his world reduced to a small, lifeless pool where he could only swim in monotonous circles or float listlessly on the surface. The water was cold, the walls unyielding, and the silence oppressive, broken only by the sound of his own movements. In 1984, Tilikum was transferred to Sealand of the Pacific, a dilapidated aquarium on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. The facility was in poor condition, its tanks cramped, its resources limited, its walls stained with the wear of neglect. There, Tilikum was housed with 2 older female orcas, Hader Roman II and Nutker Roman IV, whose fierce competition for dominance mirrored the matriarchal hierarchy of orcas in the wild. The females, older and more assertive, ruled the tank with an iron will, their interactions a constant struggle for control. Life at Sealand was grueling for Tilikum. The female orcas, asserting their authority, frequently targeted him with aggressive attacks, their teeth leaving visible wounds on his massive body. Trainers would arrive in the morning to find him battered, his skin marked with fresh scars, his eyes weary from the relentless hostility. The stress took a physical toll, manifesting in stomach ulcers that required Tilikum to be isolated in a medical pool for his own safety. The medical pool, smaller and more confining, offered little respite, its walls closing in on him like a cage. The conditions at Sealand were far from ideal, with inadequate care and a lack of enrichment exacerbating the animal's distress. Bruce Stevens, a former SeaWorld head trainer, provided Sealand with a handbook warning that failing to adequately stimulate the orcas would lead them to create their own excitement, often in destructive or aggressive ways. He cautioned that bored orcas could become unpredictable, their intelligence turning inward, manifesting in behaviors that could endanger both themselves and their trainers. Despite these warnings, little changed. The tanks remained barren, the routines repetitive, and the orcas' needs unmet. Biologist Eric Walters, who worked at Sealand in the late 1980s, grew increasingly alarmed by the facility's safety practices. He observed that the orcas' intelligence and emotional needs were largely ignored, their frustration bubbling to the surface in increasingly aggressive behaviors. He watched as they toyed with objects in their tank, refusing to relinquish them, their actions a desperate bid for stimulation. Frustrated by the lack of progress, Eric resigned in May 1989 and reported his concerns to the Canadian Federation of Humane Societies, delivering a chilling warning: "I feel that sooner or later, someone will be seriously injured." Eric's premonition proved tragically prophetic on February 20, 1991. During a performance at Sealand, Kelty Byan, a 20-year-old marine biology student and part-time trainer, slipped and fell into the orca pool. The performance had been routine, the crowd clapping as the orcas leaped and spun, but the mood shifted in an instant. Tilikum, along with Hader Roman 2 and Nutker Roman 4, attacked Kelty, dragging her underwater with terrifying force. Kelty, a championship swimmer with a bright future, was no match for the orca's overwhelming strength. The attack was swift and brutal, her body tossed like a rag doll in the churning water. Trainers shouted commands, their voices drowned out by the splash of water and the gasps of the horrified crowd. Despite their efforts, Kelty drowned, her life cut short in a moment of unimaginable horror. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the community, the headlines screaming of a young woman's death at the hands of the very animals she had dedicated herself to studying. Sealand, already struggling, could not withstand the fallout. The facility closed its doors shortly afterward, and in 1992, Tilikum and the other orcas were sold to SeaWorld, where they became part of the park's lucrative orca exhibits, histories largely overlooked in favor of their ability to draw crowds. At SeaWorld, Tilikum's sheer size, he was the largest orca in captivity, weighing over 12.0 pounds and measuring more than 20 feet in length, made him a star attraction. His massive frame and commanding presence filled the Shamu Stadium with gasps and applause, his leaps sending waves crashing against the glass. Visitors marveled at his power, their faces pressed against the barriers, their cameras flashing as he performed. Yet his past was a shadow that loomed large, a history of aggression that simmered beneath the surface. In 1999, Another disturbing incident occurred when a homeless man, who had gained unauthorized access to Tillicum's pool after hours, was found dead under mysterious circumstances. The details were murky. A man who had slipped past security, his body discovered in the early hours of the morning, but the incident added to Tillicum's troubling record. Despite these red flags, SeaWorld continued to feature him in their shows, his performances generating significant revenue for the park. His presence in the stadium was a spectacle, a carefully choreographed display of power and grace that masked the underlying tension of his captivity. The trainers, aware of his history, approached him with caution, but the public saw only the magic of the performance, the illusion of harmony between human and animal. For Dawn Brancheau, working with Tillicum was a privilege and a joy. Over the years, she developed a profound bond with the orca, one built on mutual trust and countless hours of training. Her colleagues marveled at their connection, describing it as a partnership rooted in love and respect. Dawn's expertise was unmatched. She could anticipate Tillicum's moods, respond to his cues, and guide him through complex behaviors with a calm, steady hand. Her training sessions were a delicate dance, a balance of communication and understanding that seemed to transcend the boundaries between human and animal. She would spend hours in the water with Tillicum, her movements synchronized with his, her voice soft as she issued commands. Their bond was evident in the way Tillicum responded to her, his massive body gliding gently beside her, his eyes locked on hers in moments of quiet connection. Those who worked alongside her often spoke of the love that defined their relationship, a connection that seemed to defy the challenges of Tillicum's past. Dawn would spend breaks by the pool, watching Tillicum swim, her face lit with a smile as she spoke of his intelligence, his curiosity, his spirit. She saw him not as a dangerous animal, but as a partner, a friend, a creature with a story as complex as her own. On February 24, 2010, Dawn prepared for the Dining with Shamu show, a unique SeaWorld experience where guests enjoyed a meal while watching the orcas perform. The atmosphere was festive, with families gathered around tables, their faces lit with excitement as they awaited the performance. Children pressed their noses against the glass, their eyes wide with wonder as they caught glimpses of the orcas gliding through the water, their massive forms casting shadows across the pool. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the scene, the air filled with the chatter of guests and the clink of cutlery. Dawn stood at the edge of the pool, her presence a calming force amid the anticipation. She wore her signature wetsuit, her hair tied back in a ponytail, her movements confident and assured. She stroked Tillicum's nose, a familiar gesture that had always elicited a gentle response, a moment of connection that had become second nature. The crowd watched, enchanted by the apparent harmony between trainer and orca, their bond a testament to years of trust and care. Dawn leaned in, her face close to Tillicum's, her hand resting gently on his rostrum, her voice soft as she spoke to him. It was a moment of quiet intimacy, a snapshot of the connection that had defined their relationship for so long. But in an instant, everything changed. Witnesses later provided conflicting accounts of what happened next. Some claimed Tillicum grabbed Dawn's ponytail, yanking her into the water with a sudden, violent pull, her hair caught in his powerful jaws. Others said he seized her arm or shoulder, dragging her into the pool with a force that was both swift and terrifying. The truth, obscured by the chaos of the moment, was that Tillicum's actions were sudden and devastating. What followed was a scene of unimaginable horror. Tillicum thrashed Dawn underwater, swinging her in his powerful jaws, his movements relentless and ferocious. The pool became a maelstrom, the water churning as Tillicum's massive body twisted and turned, Dawn's form lost in the chaos. The attack lasted for an excruciating 45 minutes, the crowd frozen in shock as trainers scrambled to intervene. They shouted commands, their voices hoarse with desperation, their hands trembling as they wielded nets and tossed food in a futile attempt to distract Tillicum. The audience, once filled with joy, now watched in stunned silence, the festive atmosphere replaced by a palpable sense of dread. Parents shielded their children's eyes, their faces pale with horror, while others stood rooted to the spot, unable to look away from the tragedy unfolding before them. The trainers worked tirelessly, their efforts a desperate race against time, but Tillicum remained unrelenting, his massive body dominating the pool, his actions driven by an instinct no one could fully comprehend. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, trainers managed to guide Tillicum into a smaller medical pool, where he was easier to control. The pool, designed for medical procedures, was a confined space, its walls offering a measure of control that the main pool lacked. There, Tillicum's agitation began to subside, his movements slowing as the trainers continued their efforts to calm him. Only then did he release Dawn's lifeless body, her form floating in the water, a tragic end to a life so full of passion and purpose. The autopsy report painted a grim picture of the attack's brutality. Tillicum's violent thrashing had broken Dawn's jaw, fractured part of her spine, and dislocated her elbow and knee. A portion of her scalp was forcibly torn from her skull, her hair and skin later found at the bottom of the pool, a haunting testament to the ferocity of the attack. The official cause of death was drowning, compounded by severe blunt force injuries to her head, neck, and chest. Dawn Brancheau, a vibrant 40-year-old whose life had been defined by her love for animals, was gone, leaving behind a legacy of passion and a void that could never be filled. The tragedy sent shockwaves through SeaWorld, the marine biology community, and the public at large. News outlets descended on Orlando, their cameras and microphones capturing the grief and disbelief that hung heavy in the air. Dawn's family, devastated by the loss, chose to honor her memory by focusing on the way she lived rather than the way she died. In 2016, they established an organization in her name, dedicated to improving the lives of children and animals in need, promoting community service, and inspiring others to pursue their dreams with the same fervor Dawn had shown. The organization became a beacon of hope, funding programs that supported animal welfare, youth education, and community outreach, reflecting Dawn's lifelong commitment to compassion and service. She was laid to rest at Holy Sepulchre Cemetery, just outside Chicago, Illinois, her grave marked by a simple stone that bore her name and a message of love. The cemetery, with its quiet paths and whispering trees, became a place of pilgrimage for those who admired her, a space where her memory lived on in the hearts of those who knew her warmth, kindness, and unbreakable spirit. Tillicum's life after the incident was marked by isolation. He spent much of his time in a pool away from public view, often floating listlessly on the surface, a stark contrast to the vibrant creature he had once been. Reports described him as withdrawn, his days spent in a state of quiet resignation, his massive body a shadow of its former power. Trainers who worked with him noted his lethargy, his eyes lacking the spark that had once defined him. He would lie motionless for hours, the water lapping gently against his sides, a silent testament to the toll of captivity. In 2017, he passed away from a lung infection, his life a testament to the challenges of keeping such intelligent, social creatures in confinement. His death marked the end of a tumultuous journey, one that raised profound questions about the ethics of marine mammal captivity. Animal rights activists and concerned citizens called for an end to orca shows, their voices growing louder in the wake of Don's death, their protests a reminder of the cost of keeping wild animals in captivity. SeaWorld faced intense scrutiny in the aftermath of the tragedy. The park, once a symbol of wonder and discovery, became a lightning rod for criticism, its practices called into question by those who saw Don's death as a preventable tragedy. In August 2010, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, cited SeaWorld for 3 safety violations, imposing a fine of $75,000, a penalty many felt was woefully inadequate given the gravity of the tragedy. The fine, a mere fraction of SeaWorld's revenue, did little to address the systemic issues that had contributed to the incident. The park issued statements expressing their sorrow, but they did not accept responsibility for Don's death, a decision that further fueled public outrage. The controversy surrounding Tilikum and the conditions of his captivity sparked a broader conversation about the ethics of keeping orcas in captivity, a debate that continues to this day. Don Brancheau's story is a poignant reminder of the beauty and danger inherent in working with wild animals. Her life was a celebration of the bond between humans and the natural world, a bond she nurtured with every fiber of her being. She approached her work with a sense of wonder and respect, her love for orcas evident in every interaction, from the gentle touch of her hand on Tilikum's nose to the hours she spent advocating their care. Yet, her story also serves as a sobering lesson about the unpredictability of creatures whose instincts cannot be fully tamed, no matter how strong the bond. Don's legacy endures through the organization founded in her name, which continues to support causes she held dear, from animal welfare to community outreach. Her story invites us to reflect on our relationship with the wild, urging us to approach it with respect, humility, and an unwavering commitment to understanding. As we remember Dawn, we honor not only her life, but also the animals she loved so deeply, whose majesty and mystery continue to captivate and challenge us. Her memory lives on, a beacon of compassion and courage in a world that is both beautiful and unpredictable, a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, the human spirit, and the spirit of those we love and endure through acts of kindness, service, and an unyielding love for the creatures that share our world. If you enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, comment, and share this video with a friend. See you in the next video.